Hello, everyone, and assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Omar Bashir, and I'm an educational advisor with Education USA based at the Karachi office. I recently joined Education USA. Our session today is for anyone thinking about studying in the United States at the graduate level. We will discuss different essays or statements required for admissions into the university. Also, we are going to have Q&A session towards the end of the session. So meanwhile, while I'm presenting, if you come across any questions that you may want to ask, you can drop it in the Q&A box. So before we begin, a little bit about Education USA. Education USA Pakistan is a network it's a part of Department of State network of over 430 international student advising centers in more than 175 countries and territories. The network promotes higher education in the US around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about opportunities to study at accredited institutions in the United States. Education USA Pakistan is your official source of information on US higher education, and we also offer free advising services. We also have an app now. You can download this app and chat with our advisors during the work hours. You can also access the upcoming events and the frequently asked questions and much more. If you research the college application process, it can be a little bit daunting. However, Education USA has broken down the US college application process into 5 steps. And Education USA advisors assist students in all these 5 steps. Today, we are going to talk about the 3rd step, a component of the 3rd step, which is completing your application. When you're submitting your applications for graduate schools in the United States, one of the components is writing an essay or a statement or a research proposal. So we will be covering some of those topics today. So at graduate level, when you're applying for schools, there might be different type of essays that school might require, some different types of statements. And if you're applying for a PhD, there will be research proposals required or letter of recommendations required when you're applying for the school. So this type of essays or statements or proposals may vary from school to school and from state to state. So whenever you apply whenever you're researching for universities, please make sure to know what type of essays are required. So first, we're going to talk about the personal statement. So the personal statement it gives the admissions committee a sense of who you are as a person. You don't necessarily talk about your academics in here. You can give them a brief description about your academics, but they really want to know who you are as a person and what you have achieved in your personal life. And personal statement also focuses on personal motivations for attending graduate school and pursuing your specific career, as well as you have overcome and your successes. Personal statement could be about 500 to 1,000 words. This also depends on what school you're applying for and what state you're applying in. So you just have to make sure you read the prompt before you start writing the statement. Make sure that it's exactly, if they need 800 words, don't go above 800 to stay within that 800 limit or be below that. But make sure that you're able to get your point across. So personal statement used to be generally required for undergraduate admissions. However, graduate schools in some states and some universities are asking students to provide a personal statement so they can understand you as a person better. So how to write a personal statement, right? So understanding the prompt is extremely important. Most schools will want to know about your academic and professional experiences, as well as how you will add value to their program. And, however, every program is different and each applicant is different. So you have to explain them why, based on the prompt, based on the question that they're asking, why should they choose you? What makes you stand out in front of other 1,000 applicants who have applied for this particular university or a program. Make sure that you read the prompt carefully several times before you even answer the prompt. And sometimes students are very shy from asking help from other people or their peers or mentors. You're more than welcome to reach out to them and ask them for clarity. And then outlining your essay is very important. Before you even start writing, make a plan for your personal essays by creating an outline. Not only this will make the writing easier and faster, but it will be likely to add your thoroughly addressing the prompt in clear and cohesive way. That means if you outline your essay and you know what you're going to write about in that particular essay, you can see whatever information you have written in your outline, and then you can go back to the prompt and see if it answers the particular questions that the prompt is asking for. So any any essay that you write, we have to structure it very well, right? So based on my professional and educational experiences, we were supposed to write these statement in over all the essays that I have written throughout my undergraduate and graduate degree, even when I was in college, getting my associate's degree. So thesis statement is very important because this is going to outline what your essay is going to be. A thesis statement can be about 3 sentences, and then 3 sentences could be composed into 3 different paragraphs when you're elaborating more on it. So a thesis statement would give the admission committee an idea of what you're going to speak about in your essay. And then personalize your essay. If you're applying for business school, tell them why you're applying for business school. You had a long-term goal that you wanted to open up your business. If you're applying for a business school, don't talk about other areas, other academic focused areas, because that would get you off track. So just talk about your own major that you want to you're trying to get into. And make it relevant. What you have done throughout your educational and professional career, professional life, in order to get to this point. Why are you trying to apply for this school? Make it a little personal, make it relevant, give them examples of the extracurricular activities that you have done, or if you are working, tell them that you're already working in this field, and tell them this work experience is going to help me get further education. So just make it relevant. So strategies to write personal statement. So you need to make a strong case for yourself. Your statement should be constructed on the central argument that you are a good fit for the program and the program is a good fit for you. You have to think about and tell them that not just I'm a good fit for the program is going to benefit me, and how the program will benefit you. You need to let them know. Your experiences or narrative should connect to what is expected of a scholar or participant in the program. Likewise, you should express how you imagine your program to assist you in achieving your goals. And then get personal. Your personal statement is intended to supplement a CV or resume. It should express things about you that your CV or resume did not cover. So, we don't like to give all the details in our CV because we like to keep some things away and we like to tell them during the interview. So you have to express everything in your personal statement. And then go in depth. With that means that just don't give them a sentence that I tried to get into the school in the past in a different country and I got accepted. And you don't leave that sentence just as it is. Try to elaborate more, give them more details. Why did you apply? How did you apply? What made you to apply in this particular school and stuff like that. And then also address the institution. It's very important that you're addressing the institution. That means describe why this specific program is good fit for you. You might indicate an interest in particular coursework, experiences, or even note faculty's research that resonates with you. So make sure that you incorporate the institution as well in your personal statement. So tips to write personal statement, edit your essay. Editing is different than proofreading, as it focuses on structural changes and even the content revisions. Read the prompt over and over again. Make sure you have addressed all the questions that the prompt has asked for. then look into the structure. Try reading it out loud to yourself. Read out loud to yourself. If it makes sense to you, that's great. But if it's not even making sense to you, then how would it make sense to the admissions committee? So if you're at a point that you have written a personal statement and it's not making sense to you, then you may want to revise your whole statement and rewrite it, or probably get some help. Proofread for grammar and punctuation and style. Basically, once you have written your statement, there are some softwares that you can run your essays through. One of the really popular one that I also personally use is it's called Grammarly. It's a free tool you can use to get your punctuation correct, your sentence style, and then you can pay for it, but we don't need to get into those details. But their basic feature is really great. And then also make sure that the punctuation, the proofreading in your Microsoft Word is also on. That feature is also great in giving you feedback. Get feedback from peers and mentors. You can reach out to your peers if you're comfortable, reach out to your mentors, reach out to people who have been through this process and who are going through this process, and ask for feedback from them. They all are going to give you feedback, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to incorporate that feedback into your essay. You can get that feedback and see if it's important or relevant. You can add it to your paper and see where it fits you. However, if you are adding their feedback, make sure that you edit your essay again, because it's going to change the style of your paragraphs and where you have added that particular detail, and then revise as needed. Keep revising until you have to submit it. So this is very important. So revising as needed means writing is really all about editing and rewriting. No one gets it right on the first go. You don't have to get it right on the first go. You may notice by the time you submit your personal statement, you might have 10 or 15 or even 20 drafts of written statement, and you're submitting the 21st draft to the school. And it's okay, it's normal, and that there's nothing wrong in it. You're just trying to be precise and efficient. So there is this example of personal statement. I will give you about 2 to 3 minutes. You can read it, and once you have read it, you can raise your hand. And meanwhile, I will just sum up the personal statement and what we have spoken about so far. So to sum up the personal statement, a clear narrative about applicant and why they're qualified for the graduate study is required. You can provide specific example to support your arguments, compelling reasons why the applicant and the program are a good fit for each other. Strong writing, including clear organization and error-free, and also cliche-free language. And make sure that you are sharing your details, but without oversharing your details. Okay, so just raise your hands once you are done reading this personal statement, and we will move forward. Okay, so I see people are raising their hands. Good. Now we're moving on to our next statement, which is called statement of purpose, which is a very important component for many scholarships, and also it's a very important component when you are applying for graduate schools. So statement of purpose is all about your professional desires and all your academic achievements that you have so far, what you have achieved academically, which is your education, and what you're doing professionally, which is your work. So you write about both of these things in your statement of purpose. It also discusses the purpose of why you are applying to the graduate school. It gives some more information, what motivated you to apply for the graduate school based upon your academics and your professional. So this is a very important component for the graduate admissions. Most of the schools deny a lot of students admission into the school because their statement of purpose was just not well written, or it was just very generic, or it was probably not up to the graduate level. So a lot of students get denied. So a lot of school have given prompts for statement of purpose, but sometimes it's not given. So it's good. You can reach out to the school and ask for it if there is one or not. And if it's not, then just make sure that you talk a lot about your academic and professional goals. The school will let you know how long your statement of purpose should be, but typically it's anywhere between 800 to 1,000 words. I have seen the most the school required was 1,200 words, but that was like out of ordinary. But a lot of schools just want you to limit to 800 to 1,000 words. And there is a reason behind that because they receive thousands of applications a year and they don't want to read lengthy statement of purposes. So statement of purpose is going to include the following things. Your statement of purpose is a connection of your resume, your educational background, your program, personality, and your purpose. It is a connection that you have to establish. It is the most important component for graduate school. In this section, you will have to talk about your academic and professional achievements you have obtained until now. I usually define statement of purpose as promoting yourself to the institution of interest. Like I am promoting myself to the institution so they can accept me among all other students that have applied. The admission committee will be reviewing your statement of purpose. So please make sure you have not written a generic or you have not copied another statement of purpose. A lot of these admission committee people know if you have just copied someone else's statement of purpose or the statement of purpose doesn't really make sense. So they will know and they will probably deny admissions, especially if you have plagiarized a statement of purpose. So just be very careful. So structure of statement of purpose, like any essay, statement of purpose is going to have first paragraph, your middle paragraphs, which could be 3 to 4 paragraphs, and then it's going to have your last paragraph, which we call a conclusion. So let's talk a little bit about what you will add in your first paragraph. You're going to introduce yourself briefly, as this is an important component because you are painting a picture of yourself in front of admissions committee. You need to be very careful when you're introducing yourself. These people don't know you, like they haven't seen you before. They don't have any visuals. The only way for them to know you is by how you're describing yourself and how you are introducing yourself. So just take a note of that. These people don't know you at all. So do a good job in introducing yourself. This is also where in the first paragraph is also where you develop a connection with the reader. Grabbing someone's attention to read your paper is very crucial and it sometimes can be really hard. It was really hard for me, but over time we attend different workshops and then you get a hang of it. You can develop a connection by asking a question. You can develop a connection by stating a quote, but just make sure that everything you add on there to grab readers' attention is appropriate. And then, sorry. So, and also in the last thing in your first paragraph, you're briefly going to talk about your long-term goals and how the program will help you achieve it. You're not going to go in details. You're just going to briefly give them a picture about it, about your long-term goals and how their particular program will help you achieve it. So when you move on to your middle paragraphs, as I said, you don't have to compose everything in one paragraph. Or when it comes to middle paragraphs, it can be multiple 3 or 4 paragraphs. So you will have a lot of room to write different things. But in the middle paragraph, you can elaborate more on your long-term goals and how the program will help you. You can give them examples. You can resonate their professors, faculty's research that they have done. So different type of things you can add in there that will help you explain them what are your long-term goals. Also, talk about describing your experiences and learning that brought you to this stage. Describe your experiences at work and what has motivated you at work to apply for a master's or a PhD level coursework. And also talk to them about how your long-term goal was formed. I'm pretty sure our goals are formed by many different things. Some goals are formed by experiences. Some goals are formed to make some changes. So talk about that and elaborate more on that, on those goals in this paragraph. when you're talking, when you're coming to your last paragraph, just don't start summarizing the whole essay. What we say is conclude your whole statement by reflecting what you wrote on your first paragraph, and do not add any new ideas in your last paragraph, because the reader is going to be confused that if he's trying to end this paragraph, then why are they adding more details and giving us more details? So just try to summarize your first paragraph about your introduction that you have given them briefly, and your long-term goals, because that would reflect them back. Okay, this is what the student is looking for. So overall, we don't recommend we recommend to get personal when writing about your experience, but stay professional. Do not make it emotional. Do not make it emotional in the sense that you went through a tragedy in the flood, you lost your home. There are other countries as well who are financially struggling as well. So don't try to make it emotional and be like, I lost everything in my flood. Just try to stay professional. So here are some tips some tips to write statement of purpose. We recommend to start writing statement of purpose as soon as possible. Many students leave their statement of purpose until the last minute as they feel very overwhelmed by the task at their hand. Even though it can feel intimidating to condense your whole life in 1,000 words, if you start well in advance, you will have enough time to see how you can condense your achievement and your professional experiences in those 1,000 words. And then we recommend focus on your unique experiences and qualities. Admission panels read thousands of applicants each year. So student must find innovative ways to uniquely share their story to stand out from the back of all the other students who are applying for the school. And then emphasize everything from a positive perspective and write in an active, not in a passive voice. Consider your audience. This is very important when you are writing any type of essays and you're submitting it for admissions or for jobs or anything. Consider your audience. So here in particular case, your audience is going to be an admissions committee composed of admission officers, deans, and advisors. So admission officers will read dozens, if not hundreds of statement of purpose during each application season. They can smell plagiarism and insincerity from miles away. So make sure that you are being honest and not just making up stuff. And then consider institutional qualities in the same way that colleges and universities want students to share matchless information about themselves. They would also like to see that how you can resonate their institution qualities into your essay. So make sure you add them in your essays as well. What is unique about their school that you are trying to apply for? Peel back the layers. This means that if you're trying to convey a message, just don't give a brief statement, okay, I'm trying to do this. You need to elaborate more. You just need to elaborate more on it and say, why are you trying to achieve something and why are you trying to get it to the school? Read other statements. If you do a quick Google search, you're going to find thousands or even hundreds of other statement of purpose online. But then we recommend that to students to read other statements so that you can get an idea how other students have written their statements when it's ready. You can get an idea how they have broken down their details in the essays and where are they adding the most important details and where they're adding the least important details while it's still being an important detail. So that will help you. And then we cannot emphasize enough on edit and proofread your statements, because this is extremely crucial. They are going to look for grammatical errors and sentence structure, because if getting an admission into a graduate level, they want to make sure that the student can understand basic grammar and sentence structure, and also spelling. So this is where they know that you are really serious and you have revised your essay many times before you submitted it. So here is an example of a purpose of statement. I really like this purpose of statement, how the student has written a statement. Personally, when I write my essays or any kind of statements, I start my essays or statement by a question, but I never thought about starting an essay or a statement by a quote. So just read this and then raise your hands and then we can proceed forward. Okay, I see people raising their hands now. So moving on to the next proposal, we are going to talk about research proposal now. This is research proposals are not required when you're getting into a master's program. However, it is required when you're applying for a PhD. So research proposal is basically a question that you're going to research in your whole PhD program. The 3, 4, or 6 years that you're going to spend at the institution, what you're going to research. So you basically have to break it down for the admission committee. The proposal is going to be about 3,000 to 4,000 words. Again, you have to check the university's requirement that you're trying to apply at. Each university is different and each state is different. So just make sure that you are paying significant amount of attention while you're reading these instructions. So when you're doing your research proposal, it can be your own project or it can be an existing project. And I will talk more about this in our upcoming slides. Research proposal is going to help your future supervisors understand you better. And then also your proposal, your funding is going to depend on how well your proposal is. So if you're applying for PhD, it's very important that you have a well-written and composed proposal. So research proposal is composed of 3 things: demonstrate your PhD is worthwhile, which means a successful PhD project must make a significant original contribution to knowledge. You have to demonstrate that your research topic is original. That means nobody has studied the same topic. In the previous slide, I mentioned it could be an existing project. If you're planning to research on an existing project at the PhD level, then you need to make sure that you're adding something to that project. The data is different. You just need to prove the data is different or the supporting material is different. Something that is different that will not make it seem like you're just researching something that was already researched by someone else. There has to be something extremely out of the way for you to research something that has been already been researched. Okay, then you need to demonstrate your PhD is feasible. A PhD program can take anywhere between 3 to 6 years, depending on your major and the university and the program that you're applying for. You will also spend time teaching a course and traveling for conferences. So one of the things your proposal needs to do is demonstrate that your project is feasible, that it fits the scope of a PhD. The most important criteria for what is to be clear about what you plan to do. It should be obvious from your proposal what the scope of your project is, what is and what is not included within. You also need to outline how you plan to do your research, where will you start and where will you end, and basically you just have to give them a timeline. Where will you start your project? How are you going to start it? How will you conduct it? And how will you end it within a given time frame? And then lastly, demonstrate that you can complete it at this university. You need to address you just basically here, you need to tell the admissions committee that yes, I'm determined to complete my proposal at this university. Sometimes what happens is that people would apply at different universities and then they would not get admissions decision. And later on, they will change their decision and move on to different universities. So if you're planning a proposal, you need to stick to the university that you're applying to. So what should be a structure of a research proposal? Your research proposal should have a title. Sometimes the title is given by the school you're applying at. If it's not given by them, then keep it simple and descriptive and clear. And then later on, you can add quotes and alterations once you have been accepted. When you write your thesis, you don't have to write any quotes or anything of such nature in your title. And then overview is also comes after the title. So an overview would be start by defining your research question, what you're trying to research, and explain how it contributes to your current work in your field. This is also a good place to reference one or two pieces of scholarship. The full literature review can wait until your PhD begins, but you should show that you have some understanding of relevant academic research. Methodology is very important component of your PhD proposal and in your structure. Make sure the reader understands the practical and theoretical approaches you will take during your research, such as what data you will collect, how you will collect it, from where, and how do you plan on analyzing this data. It is also a good idea to provide some sort of roadmap for how long and how you would go about things. At this stage, you don't have to provide full details to them. You just can give them an overview and demonstrate how you're planning to do it within the time frame of your PhD program, which is probably 3 or 4 years. You have to explain them how you would start your research and how you are going to use your findings in your research. So just paint a timeline for them. They're trying to find out if 3, 4, or 5 years are enough for you to complete this proposal. And then after methodology, you have to talk about outcomes and impact, what will exist as a result of your research and will make it possible. Of course, you want to know, you would want to tell them, this is going to be the outcome of my research. This is what it's going to benefit. This is how the world is going to benefit. And this is how I'm going to benefit. References is very important, and it comes in the last of your proposal. References is where you're going to cite all your sources. It is a very important component. I advise my students, if you're writing a proposal or any essay or statements, and if you're using sources, then have a Word document. Of course, you're going to type your proposal, but just have one page in Word document where you can put your sources, because if you don't put your references, you may forget in the end, and you might have to go back and check where you got your source from. So just have a blank page of Word document where you can just keep putting in the references, so you can cite it towards the end of your paper. That's what we recommend. So tips on preparing a research proposal. We ask the students to be clear. The person reading your research proposal should know what exactly you're proposing to research, with no room of confusion. Again, to be clear, you can start reading the proposal to yourself or to your friends or family. And if it's not making sense to them, it's not going to make sense to the admissions committee. And then if you send that paper which is not making sense, they would know that you're not a serious candidate, and it would end up in rejection. To be concise, you will have more ideas. You will have more ideas that you can include in proposal once you have submitted, but it's okay. If you're selected with the based on the proposal you have sent, the more ideas that you came back in your mind after you send the proposal, you can discuss them during your PhD admissions interview. And then we ask students to be coherent, follow a structure that we just talked about in the previous slide. Don't start with your methodology and then say what your research is want to be. Everything should be followed in the paragraphs and the structure that we just spoke about. And then ask for help if you are stuck somewhere. If you're having problems in writing, reach out for help. There are many resources on LinkedIn. When you're writing proposals for at PhD level, reach out to those resources and they will assist you. They will provide you resources in writing a proposal. We already talked about citing your sources. It's extremely important when you're writing your proposal, because when you are publishing your work, one of your thing that they're going to teach you and they will want you to have is to cite your sources. It's going to be a completely different class where they're going to teach you how to cite your sources. It's extremely important. And proofread it once you have completed. Read it again, read it by yourself, run it through the Grammarly, run it through the Microsoft Word feature that we talked about earlier. Have your peers read your proposal so that they can give you feedback if it's correct, sentence structures are correct, but that's very important. So this is a little example of how a research proposal should look like. It shouldn't look like I just took screenshots and I posted on the slides so I can show it to you guys. Here the person has numbered their, like, first is introduction, second is problem statement, objectives, their literature review, methodology, and references. You don't have to number anything, but this is just an example how some people do their research proposals. It's completely fine if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to number it as well, so it can be easier for the reader to read your proposal. So just raise your hands once you have taken a look at it, and then we will proceed further. Okay, so I see people raising their hands. So moving on to the next slide. Letter of motivation is something that a lot of schools would ask for when you're applying for PhD admissions, apart from the proposal. They don't really talk about this, but when you go and research more at the university page and under the requirements, they would ask for a letter of motivation. Again, not all schools are going to ask for a letter of motivation. It depends from school to school. If school is asking for one, then you would have to provide it. There is no stepping away from that. And if you really want to get into that school. So a PhD motivation letter describes your personal motivation and competence for a particular research project. You can talk about why you have chosen this particular research and what makes a research question stand out if it's non-existing. And it also it helps the admissions committee distinguish between excellent and outstanding students that they have in the pool. The length of the letter of motivation should be 1 page. Again, this could vary from school to school and state to state. You just have to make sure that you read in the instructions how long your letter should be, but typically it's 1 page. So your letter of motivation should include the following, and we will talk more about it on the next slide, but typically, of course, it includes your introduction. It will include your academic and professional background, which almost every letter includes other than your personal statement. And then you're interested in applying for that particular program and the school and the skills you have, and then your concluding remarks and towards the end. So the structure of letter of motivation would look something like this. The first paragraph, couple of middle paragraphs, and the last paragraph. In the first paragraph, you're going to introduce yourself briefly. You don't have to give them everything, your age and your race and all that. Just introduce yourself briefly, state what your intentions are, what you're trying to apply, what you're trying to apply for or have applied, or what is your research questions. You can mention that. You will talk about your education that you have received in the past and what you are trying to get in the future. You're also going to talk about your work experience if you have any in this area. If you don't have any work experience and you have volunteer work or community service hours, you can mention it on the first paragraph briefly. So in the middle paragraphs, you will elaborate more on your education, how you received it, how well you received it, and what you're doing with your education now. And if a work experience, you're going to talk in more details about your work experience here. And again, if you don't have your work experience, if you have done volunteer work, tell them in details how did you find this volunteer work, what you did in there, and what you gained out of it. You will also tell them about the key skills you present and the motivations, what motivated you to apply in this school, what are the topics that motivated you to do the research in this particular field. That's what they would want to know in the middle paragraphs. When you're concluding your letter, the last paragraph, you can conclude by highlighting the impacts of the proposed research, basically talking about the research question that you're about to research. Tell them why you chose that. You're going to talk about your career goals and how you are going to achieve them. And then lastly, you're going to thank the reader. You're not going to thank them directly. You have to indirectly thank them. Don't be like, thank you so much for reading my letter today. It was an honor to write this letter. You need to indirectly thank them. So some tips that we offer while writing a motivational letter. There are some do's and don'ts, and then in do's, we tell students to gain skills and experiences, which means the track to obtaining a PhD degree is long one, which is why anyone who wants to become a PhD should commit early on to what it entails. and then start writing early, as we have discussed that it's very hard to compose your whole life or even talk about what motivated you in a couple of days or a day before when your application is due. So you can start writing about your motivations about a month or two or even 3 or 4, I would say maximum 6 months in advance. So by the time you're ready to submit, you have a really good letter to propose to the admissions committee. Consider your audience. As we talked about this earlier, it's very important to know who your audience is and who you are sending your letters to. Just so your audience are the people who will read your motivational letter, and then they will decide how your admissions should be taken upon. Use an active voice. That means you should put you in your story, avoid using the passive voice and hiding behind the achievements as if they spoke for themselves. So make sure if you're highlighting any achievements, you're using an active voice, how you achieve that and what were the struggles in achieving those. And don'ts, we say, of course, do not forget to formatting of these letters, research proposals, purpose statement of purpose, and personal statements. The instructions are going to come from the school. There are different formatting styles such as APA, MLA, Harvard. So you have to make sure what the school is asking for. Don't shy away from failures. If you were trying to achieve something and you failed at it, it's completely okay. We fail and we learn. More importantly, you should discuss if you failed at something, what did you learn out of it? What did you gain out of it? And what did you do to get it correct? Don't plagiarize. Do not copy and paste from the internet, because this is your motivations, not someone else. You're going to go to PhD school, not your neighbor. So make sure you are writing what motivated you. So don't plagiarize at all. The next component that this is going to be the last component of our presentation, is scholarship essays. Now, scholarship essays are generally not required unless you are applying for a specific scholarship at the university of your interest. The scholarship have different deadlines, so you have to make sure that your essay is ready and in by the deadline. Again, it's only required if you're applying for independent scholarships or a particular scholarship. The topic it varies from scholarship to scholarship. So it will be given by the scholarship committee, and it could be different topics for different scholarships you're applying for. So make sure you're just not sending the same letter to all the scholarships that you have found. And then the letter should be about 500 to 800 words. Most of the scholarships limit their essays to 500 words, because they're trying to see how you can strategize your achievement in that 500 words and not exceed more than that. So your scholarship essay would include who you are, your background. Again, these people don't know you personally. They haven't seen you. They don't visually know you. The only way they're going to know is by how you are explaining themselves to you, how you're explaining yourself to them. And then you're going to talk about leadership experience that you have obtained so far in your life, and then the accomplishments that you have achieved. Accomplishments could be a variety of things, the award that you have won at the graduate level or undergraduate level. If graduate level, meaning if you're applying for PhD, but students earn a lot of awards when they're in their undergraduate level of education. So mention all of those in there. Also mention if you were on the dean's list, if you were on honors list of your college, of your school. Talk about your extracurricular activities as well. That this is going to be extracurricular activities is going to be your key to getting a scholarship, because they're really interested in what you do on your extra time. State your need. Every scholarship has a specific amount associated with them. If it's $2,000 scholarship that you're applying for, don't state your need is $5,000. Then that will automatically disqualify you, because the scholarship award initially is $2,000. So if the award is $2,000, you can be like, I need between $1,500 to $2,000 in order to support my education. And then lastly, explain them how the scholarship that you're applying for is going to help you obtain your education. And then also tell them why they should give you the scholarship. This is something they really like to know. Why should they give you the scholarship? Because there's so many people out there looking for scholarships and applying for scholarships. So paint a good picture for them. So structure of a scholarship essay, of course, the first paragraph, introduce yourself and state your intentions. Again, they're only going to know you the way you explain them since they have no visuals and they don't know you personally. Tell them about what school you are in, what program you're in, and what type of degree you're trying to get. They're really interested in knowing that. In your middle paragraphs, you're going to talk about your educational objectives and your career goals. Give them all the details about what you have achieved educationally so far and what are you trying to obtain in your career. Also give them a brief background about your extracurricular activities. Tell them how you found out about them, what did you do in them, what did you learn out of it, how long was the extracurricular activity, and where it was located. And talk about your financial need. What exactly are you looking for? Again, if the scholarship amount is 500, $2,000, don't be like my funding need, my financial need is $5,000. Try to stay in that range. And then lastly, conclude by highlighting the impact of education you have received, because getting a scholarship, you have to explain them what is the importance of education to you, because the term education can mean different things to different people. You need to explain them what does it mean to you. And then again, send them a thank you note, write a thank you towards the end. Don't be direct. I thank you for reading this essay and I hope you consider me. No, just try to indirectly thank them. Once you have received your scholarship, it is very crucial that you send them a thank you note. Even what happens sometimes is that you would get a scholarship and it will not be posted to your student account until you have sent a thank you note to your donor. So it's very important that you keep that in mind. And it's also important in your thank you note, you incorporate some of the stuff that you have written in your essays, scholarship essay. So make sure you have saved a copy of your scholarship essay so you don't forget what you wrote in it. Of course, it's going to be about you, but you might forget how you word it. So just keep a copy of it on a side. Tips on writing scholarship essays. Customize, as I mentioned earlier, each scholarship is different. So customize your essay based on the scholarship. Don't send same essay to all the scholarships that are available out there, since each of them has different requirements. And then answer the prompts. Can keep reading the prompt, see what they're asking for. And if you don't understand the prompt, reach out for help. This is very important. Do not exceed the word limit given in the instructions. If the instructions are saying that you only need 500 words, then try to limit your essay into 500 words. Do not go above it. If you can be exactly at 500. If it can be really challenging to put everything down in 500 words, then you can be below 500, but do not go over 500. A lot of essays are prompts are going to say stay between 300 and 500 words. So don't go below 300 and don't go below 500. So they really want to see how you can strategize this technique. So if you're giving them examples in your essay, you need to back up your statements. How did that example reflect you and your experiences in the past? And lastly, we ask students to proofread and ask for help. This is very important. If you don't proofread, if you just write and just send your essay and later on you read it on your own and you're like, okay, this doesn't really make sense to me. There are a lot of grammatical errors. There's a lot of punctuation errors. How would the committee understand my letter? So make sure that you're proofreading and asking for help. So this is an example of a scholarship essay. You can read it on your own and raise your hand, and then we will proceed further. Okay, so while you are reading this scholarship essay, I would like to point out that a lot of students get confused between personal statement and statement of purpose. It sounds very familiar, but there are two different components. Personal statement was generally required for undergraduate admissions, but now a lot of graduate school is asking for it. Personal statement is going to talk about who you are personally, And the statement of purpose is going to talk about your educational achievements and your professional achievements. So this is the difference between these two. Don't get confused between study objectives and letter of motivation when you're applying for a PhD level. Study objectives are, you're going to talk about what you have achieved, educationally achieved in your life, and what you're trying to study, what you have studied in the past and what you're trying to study in the future. Motivational letter, on the other hand, is going to tell them what motivated you to apply to their school and why their program stands out compared to the other 4,000 accredited universities in the US. So this is the difference between these two. So don't get confused. Moving on, this is our website. You can sign up for our advising services. Our advising services are free. Once you sign up for our advising services, an advisor will reach out to you. However, if you would like to talk to me directly, this is my email address. Send me an email. And if you have any specific questions, let me know. And if you would like to make an appointment with me, I can send you my Calendly link, and we can have one-on-one advising sessions. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We are everywhere. On Facebook, we have a lot of workshops on there. We have videos from the past workshops about statement of purpose and different types of things. Also, when you go on our website, you can also access our upcoming events. We typically do different types of events weekly. So I will take your questions now. Make sure that you type your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. So there's a question, please share something about the Fulbright essays, both the personal statement and the statement of purpose. When you are applying for Fulbright scholarship, you are going to write statement of purpose. That's what they need. Can you please explain the thesis statement part? Yes. So the thesis statement is going to outline your whole essay, what you're going to talk about in your essay. You can have 3 different sentences and you can just give them an outline in your thesis. Okay, in this middle first paragraph, I will talk about sports. In the second paragraph, middle second paragraph, I will talk about education. And in the third middle paragraph, I'm going to talk about schools. So you just have to give them an outline, and then later on the middle paragraphs, you talk more about them. Can EducationUSA help with review of these essays? Definitely, we can help you. Of course, sign up for our advising services. However, we will not review the statement of purpose until April 12th because of our Fulbright scholarship application. So we will review any type of essays after April 12th. Yes, you can, Mabeen Fatima, you can get our feedback. If you want feedback directly from you, you have my email address on the screen. You can email me. Students who are trying to get specific queries about which school should I apply in and I have a lower GPA and stuff of that nature, then please reach out to me directly and let me know that you attended the session and you have a question about it, and we will help you out. There's a question. I cannot support my studies expenses. Do you have any program for funding studies? If you're looking at a graduate level, we have a fully funded scholarship called Fulbright Scholarship. You can visit our webpage at usefb.org, Fulbright Scholarship, and then you will get all the details about it. It's fully funded. How much weight, this is a very good question. How much weight should be given to highlighting our academic achievements and linking to professional experience? I would say you should spend a good amount of time and about highlighting your academic achievement and professional experiences because they both go hand in hand. So if you need more, if you have written your essay, we can look at it and I can provide you feedback after April 12th. But highlighting your academic achievements are extremely important when you're writing statement of purpose because that's how you're going to get admission into the university. And then linking to professional experience will tell the admissions committee that yes, the student is really serious because they achieved this in their education and this is what they're doing now professionally. Can we end SOP statement of purpose by any quote? It depends what type of quote you're using. I personally would not end any essays with a quote. I might use a quote or a question in the beginning of the essay, but not towards the end because you are just finishing up your essay. The study objectives of Fulbright Master's similar to research proposal because Fulbright requires personal statement. And so Fulbright requires a statement of purpose, which we talked about, is going to be your academics achievement and your professional achievement. And yes, it also requires a separate statement with the study objectives. Study objectives are going to talk about what you have studied in the past and what you're trying to study and how that is going to impact you. Yes, can you explain the difference between statement of purpose and letter of motivation? So statement of purpose, you're highlighting your academic and professional achievement, and letter of motivation is something you're telling them what motivated you to getting into this school and this program, because there are 4,000, more than 4,000 accredited universities in the US. So what is your motivation for applying into this particular program and school and the major that you have decided? Uh, there is a comment, can we use Chat GPT for these statements? A quick answer would be no, because that's plagiarism. So they will run your statements through turnitin.com and they will detect any plagiarism and that will disqualify you. And for Fulbright, you would just need your study objectives, not a research proposal. How can I find scholarship for Pakistani students? So if you're trying to look for scholarships, we usually recommend that you go onto the university's website that you're planning to apply at and go into their financial aid section and they should have a tab for scholarships and click on it and see what type of scholarships they have. And you can apply for it individually. Okay, there is a question or I was a statement. If a university require both personal statement and statement of purpose, like Michigan University require both, how should I present in both ways? I would say reach out to me and we can talk more about your admissions. Again, there are a lot of questions. If we can read your essays and give feedback, yes, we can give you feedback, but after April 12th. How much work experience matters to get admitted in PhD level? So this is a good question. Universities have not outlined you need to have 5 years of experience, 4 years of experience, 2 years of experience. So If you have work experience, that's great. It's not going to negatively affect you if you don't have work experience, but I would definitely recommend to avail any internship opportunities you may have, or any kind of extracurricular activities like community service. Just make sure you have some of those so you can make your application more stronger. Um, So there is a question in writing the statement of purpose for Fulbright. Do we have to write about why we need the financial assistance or scholarship? No, you don't have to tell them that if you're doing for Fulbright. Salman, if you have a specific question, you can email me directly. My email address is on the screen. Can you please tell me about the recommendation letter for a major of cybersecurity? So letter recommendations are completely different. If the school is asking for a letter of recommendations, then please reach out to your employer if you're currently employed. If not, if you're in school, then reach out to your faculty members. Is education gap fatal in applying? Not really, but you need to explain them. What was that gap about? Okay, how to search about relevant school or university, especially for PhD, especially how to approach a supervisor. That's a very good question, Fazia. I recommend you sending me an email and I will provide you with the resources. When will the next Fulbright scholarship come? Next year. There's one which is ending, the deadline is April 12th, but the next one would be announced next year. Is there any age constraints to apply for? No, there's no age limit in the US to applying for any kind of program. Is there any alternate to Fulbright I can apply to as a US citizen I'm ineligible to apply for? Then you can look into the FAFSA option that US citizens qualify for. If a student have low GPA, then can he apply for scholarships? Yes. I'm not sure how low your GPA is, but if you need like one-on-one advising, I would recommend sending me an email. I can look into your profile and advise you based on that. Can we get Fulbright in medical field? If you're trying to get into clinical side where you have patient interactions, then no. If you're trying to do a research in medical field, then yes. If your essays need to be submitted before April 12th, or these can be submitted later also. I'm assuming that you're talking about Fulbright. It has to be submitted by the April 12th. Visa refusal, please send me an email because there is a lot more details for us to know before we can advise you. So please send me an email and we can guide you based on one-on-one. Is it okay to put our university preferences in Fulbright application? Absolutely, yes. Please do. Is TOEFL required for Fulbright at the time of applying? No, when you're applying for Fulbright, only GRE is required. But if you're selected for Fulbright, you will have to take TOEFL. If you're trying to directly contact the faculty members in a specific university, then you are more than welcome to contact them through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional platform for all the professional individuals. If you're unable to take GRE right now for Fulbright, for the one that is ending on April 12th, you wouldn't be qualifying because GRE is required for you to apply. Yes, GRE is important for Fulbright. I don't have any publications yet. If you don't have any publications for a PhD program, that's completely okay because PhD is all about teaching you how to publish. It's not going to negatively affect you. However, if you have any publications, it will be in your favor when you apply for PhD programs. Relevant experience will help you in most of the scholarships that you're applying at, yes. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It was a great session. If you have any more questions, please send me an email on omar.bashir@usefp.org. I can look into your statement of purpose, your other essays that are required by school for admissions. But after April 12th, where April 12th is right around the corner, so we can start reviewing that after the Fulbright application closes without a problem. If you please send me an email for any further inquiries on the email addresses on your screen, you're more than welcome to take a picture. It was great offering a session today. Thank you so much, guys. You have a great day.